Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Here's the situation. My daughter, Emily, is getting married. Naturally, I'm happy for her and her fiancé. They're a good couple, and I want them to have a wonderful life together. She recently asked if she could hold her wedding at my house. This house is where she grew up, so it has a lot of sentimental value for her. I get it. But there's a big problem. Emily's mother, Karen, and her husband, Dan, would also be attending the wedding, and I have very personal reasons for not wanting them here. For background, Karen and I were married for more than 20 years. We had a beautiful life together. During our marriage, I started a small consulting business from scratch. I worked long hours, often 7 days a week, to get it off the ground. At the time, Karen was supportive. She would say how proud she was of me, how the hard work was worth it. It wasn't easy, but after years of grinding, the company started to grow. We became more financially stable, bought a home, had our daughter, and life looked perfect for a while. Dan, who was my best friend since college, came into the picture not long after I started the business. Dan and I had known each other for years. We'd been through everything together. We were close, and I trusted him. When he ran into trouble after a failed business venture of his own, I didn't hesitate to help him out. I brought him on as an employee, thinking he'd be a good fit and could use the break. Over time, he became more involved, and I eventually made him a partner. This wasn't just charity. Dan was smart, and I thought having him as a partner would strengthen the company. Plus, it felt good to help a friend. For a while, it seemed like everything was going smoothly. The company grew. Dan became close with my family, and it felt like he was part of the household. We celebrated holidays together, went on vacations as families, and even talked about future business plans. I thought we were a strong team, both professionally and personally. But that changed when Karen came to me one evening and said she wanted a divorce. She said she'd fallen in love with someone else. I was blindsided, completely blindsided. I kept asking who it was, not believing what I was hearing. Then she told me. It was Dan, my best friend and business partner. I remember feeling like the floor dropped out from under me. Karen explained that they had been having an affair and that she was leaving me for him. She was incredibly matter-of-fact about it, as if it was just one of those things that happen. The betrayal was massive. It wasn't just about my wife cheating on me. It was about losing my best friend in the process. I always trusted Dan with my business, my family, and my life. It felt like a double hit. One from Karen, one from Dan. But it didn't stop there. Dan didn't just take my wife. He went after the business. Not long after the affair came out, I noticed Dan starting to undercut me at work. He spread rumors among employees that I was losing focus or not fit to lead. He tried to poach clients, and I later found out that he even made quiet moves to buy out my stake in the company. He wanted control, and he tried to make me look like the bad guy. I had to lawyer up and spend a significant amount of time and money fighting him. It was one of the worst periods of my life. Eventually, I managed to keep the company, but the experience left me bitter and drained. After Karen left, she married Dan. Emily, who was still living at home at the time, ended up maintaining a good relationship with her mother and Dan. I didn't interfere with that. I didn't badmouth them to her, and I didn't try to keep her from seeing them. I thought she was old enough to make her own decisions about her relationships with them. Over time, she seemed to get along fine with her mother and stepfather. I, on the other hand, cut all ties. I don't speak to Karen or Dan unless absolutely necessary, and I've kept them out of my life as much as possible. So, when Emily asked if she could have her wedding at my house, I hesitated. I knew that having the wedding here meant having Karen and Dan here. When I brought up my concerns, Emily didn't seem to understand why it was such a big deal. She said it was her childhood home and that it would mean a lot to her to get married here. I tried to explain that, while I understand her feelings, I can't bring myself to host the very people who caused me so much pain. Karen cheated on me with my best friend. Dan betrayed me both personally and professionally. I can't pretend that never happened just because it's convenient for her wedding. Emily pushed back, saying I was holding on to a grudge and that it was time to move on. I told her it wasn't about a grudge. It was about boundaries. I don't want those people in my home. I don't want to see them smiling and celebrating here, acting like the past doesn't exist. I made it clear that while I love her and support her marriage, I have a right to decide who enters my house. I also told her that man, Dan, stole from me. He didn't just take my wife, he tried to take my company and livelihood. I can't overlook that and let him enter my house like nothing happened. That's when she dropped the bombshell. If I won't let her have the wedding at my house, then I'm not invited at all. She said, "Well, Dad, if you're so precious about not having my mother and stepfather in your house, then clearly it's going to be unbearable for you to see them at my wedding. So why don't you just sit this one out? I wouldn't want you to be uncomfortable. You're obviously too fragile for that." She crossed her arms and kept going. I mean, you wouldn't want to ruin your whole day just because they're there. So, you know what? I'll make it easy for you. You don't have to come at all. Problem solved. Her words weren't just dismissive. They were dripping with spite. It was clear she wasn't trying to find a compromise. She was angry that I wouldn't host her mother and stepfather at my home, and now she was trying to hurt me back. I tried to respond calmly. I told her I wanted to be at her wedding and that my issue was about having her mother and Dan in my house, not about attending the ceremony. But she wasn't hearing any of it. She rolled her eyes, shook her head, and said, "You know what? It's probably better this way. You can stay in your perfect little bubble where you don't have to see or deal with anyone who upsets you." Her tone was bitter and cold, and it was clear she was digging in her heels. This wasn't a rational conversation. It was her way of getting back at me for not giving her what she wanted. And as much as I tried to stay calm, it stung. I never wanted this to be a fight. I wanted to celebrate her wedding and be there for her. But I can't compromise my own sense of dignity and self-respect. I feel torn. I know she sees this house as her childhood home, and I know it's special to her. But for me, having them here would be a constant reminder of the betrayal I endured. So now I'm left wondering, am I really in the wrong here? I don't think OP is in the wrong here. It's completely reasonable for OP not to want his ex-wife and her husband, especially given everything they did, to be in his home. That's a deeply personal boundary, and OP's daughter shouldn't dismiss it. It sounds like she's not seeing the bigger picture or understanding how hurtful her reaction is. I get that she wants her dream wedding, but holding it somewhere else shouldn't be a deal breaker. If her reaction is to cut OP out entirely, that's more about her unwillingness to compromise than about OP's perfectly valid feelings. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Wow, she really thought that telling you, "then you're not invited," would make you change your mind? I'm sorry, but your daughter's way out of line here. She doesn't get to rewrite history and pretend like what her mother and stepfather did to you wasn't a betrayal. Not the a-hole. It's not unreasonable to refuse to host people who hurt you so deeply. Your daughter can have her wedding wherever she likes, but you don't owe her your home as a venue. Not the a-hole. You're allowed to have boundaries, and one of those boundaries is not having people who betrayed you in your own home. It's your house, your rules. Your daughter's reaction to punish you by not inviting you at all is honestly immature. She's prioritizing her mother and stepfather over the pain they caused you. It's sad, but that doesn't make you the bad guy. If she can't see how cruel it is to demand that you play host to people who destroyed your marriage and your business partnership, then she's got a lot of growing up to do. It's not like you're banning her from having her wedding, just that you're not willing to host people who betrayed you. Not the a-hole. If she wants her mother and stepfather there so badly, she can choose another venue. Update. Well, she kept her word. Emily went ahead with the wedding and didn't invite me. I didn't believe she'd actually go through with it. I thought deep down she'd come around, but she didn't. She went ahead and chose to have her mother and Dan there, knowing everything they did to me, and left me out completely. That hurt more than I can even explain. I felt angry. I felt heartbroken. I spent that day alone, thinking about how my own daughter could cut me out so easily after everything I did for her growing up. I've always tried to respect her choices, even when I didn't agree with them. But this crossed a line. So I made a decision. I changed my will. I'm leaving everything, my house, my business, my savings, to my brother. He was the one who stood by me through the worst parts of my life. When my wife left me, when my best friend stabbed me in the back, When I almost lost everything, he was there for me. Emily wasn't. I never thought I'd be the kind of parent who cuts their child out of their will, but here we are. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her for the way she handled this. She didn't just choose people who hurt me. She shut me out completely and acted like it was my fault. She made her choice, and now I've made mine. So, I've been helping my siblings with college funds for their kids since I'm much more financially stable than they are. Recently, my sister's eldest has started college, and as I told my sister about the fund, I'm going to give her around $160K in $40K increments once college starts. They can use it for a down payment for a house or whatever they want if anything is left over. She posted her thanks on the family Facebook. From there, my brother's stepdaughter saw it and had a meltdown. She's currently in her second year of college. From what I was told, they haven't saved anything. I gave him $10K for her since my brother asked for help, but he's demanding for me to give her $30K more to make it fair. Then start saving for the rest of his stepkids, 3 in total. Thing is, she joined the family like 2 or 3 years ago, so I never had the college fund talk with my brother. There's 2 for my sister and 2 for my younger sister. While I don't mind helping with $30K more, I don't like his entitlement to my help for some kids I never met more than 3 times. Honestly, I feel like cutting him off. He has gotten more than enough from me. The fact they didn't know about it and found out by Facebook is all you needed to say. If they aren't close enough to you to know this very big detail, they aren't close enough to expect money. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You don't have to gift anything. Lovely that he cares for his stepkids and doesn't want them to feel left out. But it makes sense that your bond with them is not the same as your other nephews and nieces. And the studying kid should be old enough to understand this, in my opinion. It is ungrateful from your brother to ask for more and not just accept what he got. I wouldn't cut him off for only this, but I don't know what else has happened, of course. He only talks to me when he needs money. Don't have any real conversations with him. Honestly, feel like he wouldn't have even invited me to his wedding if he didn't need help paying for it. Soured our relationship with him nearly losing his house and having to bail him out. He didn't even try to pay me back, so told him to forget about it, but I wouldn't come bailing him out again. Honestly, I feel semi-responsible for always helping him out. Not the a-hole. Education for adult stepkids are the responsibility of their own mother and father and respective sides of their family, not your brother and your family. You're totally right. Would have been different if your brother had raised them with his wife. So, this last week I got a coworker of mine fired for misconduct. I don't feel bad, but my coworkers are now up in arms saying whoever did this is an a-hole. So, my ex-coworker used to be a good friend of mine. I met her when I got a job here about 3 years ago, and we hit it off. We were extremely close friends, and I had misplaced trust in her. One thing she liked to do was take photos of us together and post them on Snapchat and Facebook. I never thought much of this and thought she was just sharing what she did like a normal person would do. I was wrong. About a month ago, a man randomly reached out to me. He claimed he was my girlfriend's brother and that he had finally tracked me down. Through a long back and forth, it turns out that my coworker has been pretending to her family and friends back in her hometown that I was her boyfriend. She had a second Facebook with her original name on it and had constructed a weird narrative in which I was her boyfriend. She claimed I was old-fashioned and didn't use social media to cover up her lie. This is ducking creepy, right? I documented and archived everything and corrected the record with her brother before reporting this all to HR. I didn't feel like confronting her. I honestly didn't feel like talking to her at all, and distanced myself immediately. She picked up on this quickly and started to post on her second Facebook that I had broke up with her. HR immediately transferred me away from her and kept us apart at all times. I'm guessing they told her what was going on as her Facebook disappeared overnight, and she began avoiding me like the plague. It was too late though, as this Monday she was fired for inappropriate behavior. From what HR and others have told me, she will never be working in the field again. HR has kept this as quiet as possible and has not leaked any details to anyone. The only thing my other coworkers know is that another coworker reported her for misconduct out of work and she got fired. Most of them are angry about this. The current opinion is that whoever did this is a spineless a-hole who just ruined a girl's career for nothing. I'm never going to come out about this and have asked HR to never mention me because of this. So, am I the a-hole here? I feel like what she did was wrong and she deserved it, but am I wrong? Edit, more info. Since this question has come up, I'll explain a little bit of my relationship to her. We were strictly friends. There was nothing romantic or sexual between us, at least as far as I could tell. I am somewhat a bit naive sometimes, like using hit it off without realizing its romantic connotation. But there was nothing there but friendship. We were good friends, from what I thought at least, and hung out quite a bit together. But like I said, there was nothing between us but friendship. Also, some have asked why I went straight to HR and did not talk to her on her real Facebook. She had used my real name in identifying information about me. This is how her brother tracked me down. This fake relationship stretched back 2 years and had very personal information and facts I shared with her in confidence, along with very weird constructed situations she had made. One example was a picture I had sent to her while at home sick. She then turned into a dramatic story about how I was in the hospital and she was caring for me. Another is how she took a story I told about my Valentine's date and replaced my then girlfriend with herself. This is why I went to HR. I should also clarify one thing. When I say her original name, I mean she changed her name legally, but did not tell her family to separate her current life from the one she had lived on her original Facebook. Not the a-hole, and do your best never to let out that it was you who reported her. If it does get out, you have plenty of evidence to show them why you did it, but in the meantime, let it blow over and move on. Not the a-hole. I assume your coworkers only feel that way because they didn't know the details of what she did. I think anyone who hears the story would understand how concerning this is. My 21 female stepsister, 21 female, slept with my now ex boyfriend of 1.5 years during a family vacation back in December. He broke up with me in January. Then we started talking again in February. He kept telling me he loved me, wanted to get back together, etc. I went through his messages one morning and that's how I found out. They slept together on our vacation and then continued to flirt, sext, talk crap on me, and talk about how they wanted to be together until the end of January. So while we were together and broken up. The last messages sent were on the day he came to get his things from my apartment. I'm assuming the day he realized he missed me. This whole thing has been a crap show. I'm an absolute wreck. I called him when I found out and told him I was having his friend get the rest of his things and to never speak to me again. I haven't talked to my sister, but she knows I know because the first person I called was my dad. Turns out, my stepmom knew about it. She allegedly, according to my ex-boyfriend and sister's messages, told her to do whatever makes her happy and that she deserves to be happy for once. I told my dad I can't be in the same house as them whenever I come home for college. He offered to divorce my stepmom and kick them both out and told me I will always come first. Am I the a-hole if I tell him to do it? Am I taking things too far? Update. My stepsister's been sick for a while, and it's looking like breast cancer. I'm home for spring break right now, and she's been staying with other family members for the time being. I told my dad that if it is cancer, it doesn't feel right to kick them out, and I will just have to deal with it. As for my stepmom, she claims she never said any of the things that were in the texts. I have no idea who to believe. My stepsister is clearly a liar, but her story seems too specific to make up. With that being said, my stepmom's version of the story also makes sense and seems too specific. Example, when I asked her about it, she said, "I told your stepsister that she could date him if she was willing to flee the country and change her identity." Sarcasm. So I'm not sure who to believe. I'm hoping to talk to both of them together to see who is lying, but I don't know if it's worth it with my stepsister being sick. No matter how angry and hurt I am, she needs to worry about her health. I know this is probably not the update y'all were hoping for, but I'm not exactly sure what to do in this situation. Not the a-hole. Let him. I'm glad he's taking your side. This was absolutely despicable, OP. I hope your stepsister and stepmom stub their toes for the rest of their lives. That their tank is always on E, and gas costs $5, and their clothes never fit. Not the a-hole. It is refreshing to see a parent choosing their kid over their spouse. Some never do, and others believe after you're 18, you're on your own. I have a stepdad, and my parents have been married for 30 years, and Mama said if anything were to happen, she'd choose me and my sister. But thankfully, she chose very well with him. Not the a-hole. Your dad would not do this unless he wanted to do this. I think he realizes that. If his wife is okay with her daughter sleeping with your boyfriend, what else is she capable of? My wife and I divorced 8 years ago and have a 17-year-old daughter who is entering her senior year of high school. Since we live about an hour apart, my stepdaughter stays with my ex during the week and comes to stay with me every other weekend. I often make the drive at least once a week to attend a sporting event or concert or other special event my daughter has going on. So it's not like I only see her when she comes to me, and I think it's important that she knows I will be there for her. On one of her visits a month or so ago, she mentioned to me that she has been thinking of taking a gap year after graduating instead of going to college. She knows that I have saved up a substantial amount of money for her to continue her education, and asked if she could use that money to travel and see the world while she has the freedom to do so. She also knows that this money is not in a 529 plan, my big mistake, and can be used for any purpose, hence why she asked. I was very hesitant to sign off on the idea, and suggested that she take some time to think about it. I suggested still applying to some schools and doing some campus tours just so that she is exploring all her options. She rolled her eyes at me, but agreed. A couple days later, her mom calls me and basically tells me that I'm being a jerk for forcing our daughter to go to college. I told her I wasn't forcing her to do anything. I just wanted her to be 100% sure about wanting to take a year off, because that sort of thing doesn't always work out as people think it will. My ex went off on me about how travel is something our daughter wants to do, and we shouldn't be standing in her way. She said she 100% supports our daughter's decision, and thinks I should too. I thought about it and came up with a compromise. I told my daughter and ex that if daughter really wants to take a gap year, then I have some conditions on giving her any money for it. She has to get a part-time job during the school year to help fund her travel. She still has to apply to at least 3 colleges and take campus tours, and she will get a set amount of money from me each month. I refused to give her the lump sum of money I saved for her education if she's not going to use it as I intended. Both my ex and daughter got upset and told me I was being unreasonable by putting any conditions on this because it's our daughter's decision and I shouldn't be dictating anything about it. I told them both that if she wants a single cent from me for this idea, then I damn well get to put conditions on it. I told them that these were my terms, and if they don't like them, they can both find ways to pay for daughter's gap year on their own, and I'll use the money I saved for something else. My daughter has since stopped talking to me and has decided not to come visit me the last few weeks. My ex thinks I'm being an a-hole and trying to force our daughter into adhering to some kind of predetermined vision I had for her life. Not the a-hole. What you're proposing is beyond reasonable for anyone who does want to figure their life out. What she wants is a blanket check for her Instagram travels. Stay sane. Not the a-hole. You're not forcing her to do anything. I know 18-year-old me would squander that money so bad. And to be honest, I would probably have a better, more memorable trip if I went when I was older. 18-year-old me would have blown it all in pubs, striking out with ladies I had no idea how to talk to. But enough about me. I think it's perfectly reasonable to not fund a gap year. Maybe flip it around so that if she finishes college in a timely manner and there's enough money left, that can go to fund a gap year post-college. You're not the a-hole. Money for education and money to fund a travel year are not the same. If she wants a gap year, suggest she look into AmeriCorps. That will provide food, lodging, a small stipend, and then money towards her education. You could offer to fund a 2 to 3 week travel vacation before or after, using funds the earned scholarship would replace. I'll try to make this short, but here we go. I dated my ex-boyfriend for about 7 years, and his family loved to cook. I dated him in high school through college, so I was usually over at his house helping with dinner pretty often. I learned so much about cooking from his mom and basically learned all the family recipes and know them by heart. My ex-boyfriend's parents came from India, so 90% of the recipes I know are basically Indian recipes that have been in his family for generations. Anyway, when college ended, he took a job in California, and things just fizzled out between us. Ended on good terms, no hard feelings, and when I asked if I still had his mom's blessing to cook her food, he laughed and said of course. Met my current boyfriend from work. We both were living in pretty crappy apartments in the city with roommates, ordering food every day, never really cooking. Finally, I moved into a new place a month or so ago, 1 bedroom by myself, where the kitchen is beautiful and I finally can cook again. We've been dating for about 4 months. One day, my boyfriend came over pretty late and asked what I ate for dinner. I said I made a chicken curry and he was so impressed. He asked why I decided to make that and if he could have some. He likes Indian food. We've gotten Indian food takeout on multiple occasions. I said my ex-boyfriend's mom taught me how to make their recipes, and this was one of them that I loved. He kind of just was like, "Oh, wow," and stood there. It was pretty obvious his demeanor changed. Kind of sad, I guess. I asked if anything was wrong, and he was like, I don't really think you should be cooking your ex-boyfriend's mom's food." I don't remember the exact words after that, but it was along the lines of me cooking his mom's food is basically keeping the memory of my ex-boyfriend alive in my head. I didn't agree with him and said I enjoy this food and I know these recipes, so I'm going to keep making them for myself, and he doesn't have to eat them if he doesn't want to. I just like Indian food, and these happen to be my ex's mom's recipes. And I want to keep cooking them because they're delicious and they make me feel happy. I don't see the issue. Just because I dated an Indian guy, I'm not allowed to cook Indian food? Am I the a-hole for still cooking these recipes? 100% not the a-hole. Dude is that insecure? Yeah, I mean, I can understand why he'd be taken aback at first, but it's such a non-issue. Just don't talk to him at length about how you learned the recipes and remind him. My ex likes steak. I learned to cook it quite well because it was a reliable win for dinner. Current girlfriend loves steak. She knows I got good at it because of ex. Haven't brought it up since the first time it was discussed. Continues to love steak. No big deal. Not the a-hole. If my wife could make Indian food, I wouldn't care if she learned the recipe from a serial killer. Not the a-hole. This is a red flag. Edit. Like someone else said, tell him you learned how to do BJs from a previous boyfriend. Tell him you're no longer going to do them. See what he says.